get your point. It's Greg's turn to speak. You're going on and on. Let's let you say what you have to say. Let's listen to what Greg has to say now. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, there is something by the DHCR where they have to offer you a comparable unit that you accept. They have to pay for moving expenses, etc. But that's all under the initial construct of the demo app, which is you have to show you're putting up a new building. And or whatever the new endeavor is, you know, if the DHCR says, "Hey, a park for children would be nice here," then that's acceptable. But now they're saying you don't even have to do that, and that's destruction of the community. And that's the problem. That's what we need to stand up for as tenants.
So, Greg, we only have 5 minutes left here, and then I've got to take a break, and Curtis Lee is going to join me. But I want to have you back soon because there are enormous amount of calls for you, and I really need to flush this out so that I fully understand what's going on here. But is there a legislative fix? And what is currently being done by legislators? What is the current state of play, if you will?
Well, Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, has been great for tenant rights throughout her career, she's put forth a bill. The bill is A6276A, and this bill would return the statute to what it was for 60, 70 years. And it's not asking for anything more than that. It's just saying let's go back the way it was to keep stabilization intact. But she put it forward for the last 2 years, and it didn't go very far. It's got the support of tenant groups and tenant lawyers and stabilized tenants, the ones that know about it. But this resistance is a problem. Presumably, Rebney is pushing back. But she's putting it forward again this year, and as tenacious as she is, she needs some help. It's important that stabilized tenants send letters of support. They could contact us through our website. We have a little website called blamegaryforit.com. That's blamegaryforit.com. It's Gary Barnett of Expel Development. We're basically pinning the housing crisis on him because he's done such a great job of destroying housing in New York. And you could check out our social media, the same handle, Blame Gary for it. You could check it out and send a letter of support, or you could contact your legislators to let them know that you want this bill passed. And if you want more information about it, check out our website.
So I'm going to go to Ridley in Philadelphia in just a second, and we're running out of time. But what is next? What is next? And do you forget what will happen next in your fight against what it sounds like to be a very unfair and unprecedented eviction? What can people do to help?
That's a good question, Mark. I mean, 2022 has been unpredictable. You know, when the appellate division ruled that you could just kick out your tenants, we're surprised, and I think a lot of people surprised by this, people in the know. And I'm still fighting with the DHCR in their courts to maintain their residency. Predicting what will happen, that's a big question. But people need to get in gear and get motivated, and it's not a big deal to do. Just write a letter or contact the assembly person, or check out our socials. We have a fun little thing on Instagram and making light of a terrible situation, but sometimes you need a little gallows humor to make it tangible for people. So if you check out Blame Gary for it on Instagram, and I'm not big in social media, but there's a few handles that you can check out this handle and see what you could do to help.
So, Greg, I've got 2 minutes left here, and I do want to go to Ridley in just 1 second. But have other developers began exploiting this legal loophole yet? Is it just a matter of time? And why would landlords take advantage?
All new iPhone users do these 3 mistakes. Number 1 is deleting photos manually. Number 2 is deleting all the apps on the phone. Number 3 is buying cloud storage. I am begging you not to do these iPhone mistakes. Instead, use AI Clean. Open this. Optimize storage. Get rid of your duplicate photos and videos. Delete promotions and spam emails.
Pure profit. I mean, why
Download AI Cleaner for free.
Or why even negotiate or have someone retain their spot, or even more importantly, why even show the community the building you're putting up? Because a lot of times developers don't want to show that. And that's a problem. That's a problem for me.
Let's go to Whitney quickly in Philadelphia. Go right ahead. Whitney, line 5. Go ahead, please.
Hey, how you guys doing? Listen, brother, I'm scared for you. Do you have a plan of escape, God forbid, in case there's a fire? Because this is a Goliath situation. And Goliath don't fight fire.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, that would have been more apt a couple of years ago before this decision in 2022, because now, if anything, the developer wants to show that you can remove a tenant. They're going to get a lot more result from a lawful removal of a tenant than just me. But the story is more than just me. I'm just a test case. So at this point, it's much. I think there's less risk, but anything's possible. You know, if they want to start on a project, you never know what you're going to face. So I do plan. I'm pretty good at making sure there's no potential fire issues. But you can't plan 100%. What's the expression? Plan is a list of things that probably won't happen. But you do the best you can.
Well, Greg, I'm completely out of time. Greg Marshall, I want to have you back in the future because we have a lot of calls for you, and I want to flush this out further. I mean, you're remarkable because, sometimes people don't plan to be in this situation, and you're up against a billion-dollar corporation. You're the only tenant in the apartment building, 6-story apartment building. It's been that way for the past decade. So I thank you very much for joining us live, Greg Marshall.
In 1,000 feet,
Thank you.
turn right on Rogers Avenue.
We've got to take a break. When I come back, who's going to join me? Curtis Lewa. We are coming right back.
This is Dominic Carter. James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Servi, here with an urgent warning. While we celebrate Trump's historic win, and now China is targeting your money with a kill shot on the dollar. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold and contacting the experts at Colonial Metals Group. For a free gold guide that explains everything you need to know, freegoldguide.com/Bo or call 800-941-0498 for your free gold guide and find out if you qualify for up to $7,500 in free silver.
This is Judge Janine Pirro with an important message. A mom and her son were being followed by a man in a parking lot. As he approached their car, she pulled out her Berna launcher, and the sight of it was enough to make him flee. Berna gives you the power to protect your family without lethal force. No permits, no background checks, just peace of mind. Visit Berna.com and use code Janine for 10% off. Remember, Berna isn't legal in New York City or Yonkers. Stay safe, stay prepared with Berna. Thanks to the generosity of friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation welcomed U.S. Army Specialist Fred Menard into a new mortgage-free smart home in Florida. Fred decided to enlist in the U.S. Army after being motivated by 9/11 and his desire to be a part of something that truly matters. While on a road clearance mission in Afghanistan, Brett's vehicle was blown up by an improvised explosive device. In that instant, his life changed forever. The blast left Brett, a T4 paraplegic with traumatic brain injury, compartment syndrome in both arms, unable to use his legs, and severe internal injuries. He even needed a total face reconstruction because his bones and teeth were shattered in the explosion. Despite his overwhelming challenges, Brett's spirit remained unbroken because of the support of friends like you. Tunnel to Towers built him a specially adapted smart home that allows catastrophically injured heroes like Brett to live more independently. America's heroes need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. One Tough Cop with Bo Dietl.
One of the great actors of all time, Chad Palminteri. You're a real New Yorker. What is your feelings like what's going on in the city today?
Well, I hope now that things change a little bit, only because I think that crime is not good. The subways are dirty, I think they're dangerous, and I hope they can fix that.
My whole thing is this. I'm a son of an immigrant.
So am I.
So are you. So we welcome people that want to work hard. And there's a lot of jobs that people don't want to do now.
Yeah.
But you have people that are going to work hard. And I know immigrants do work hard.
my business is crime, and the influx of these real criminal gangs going around our cities with no avail for public safety. And I like what's going on about rounding up the criminal element and getting them the hell out of here.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra.
A group of students on Long Island are putting their skills to use for community members in need. High schoolers that are part of the barber apprenticeship program with the Barber and Beauty Institute of New York gave free haircuts and facials at the Cerebral Palsy Association of Nassau. The executive director of the association, Christopher Felder, tells News 12 the visit means more than just a haircut.
To see their smiles and to have them see engagement is wonderful. Look at everybody engaging and talking, and they feel, they don't think they're at programs, they just feel like they're part of the community.
Participants say it feels good to share their talents with others.
Even though they could be with different types of needs, they're still as equal. It makes them very happy, makes them feel good and look good.
A co-founder of the Barber and Beauty Institute says it also gives barbers an important life lesson.
At an early age, allows them to know that what they do with their hands is very important. They can help others and make people feel good.
The apprentice students are set to visit the center again come springtime. I'm Liz Radavali for 77 WABC News.
And now, it's time for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Final Thoughts.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation doing remarkable work each and every day on behalf of Americans. Guess who's here with me right now? Curtis Sliwa. Mr. Sliwa, what's going on?
Well, Dominic, I want to know what you're doing. Your pre-Super Bowl preparation. You're not going to be tailgating.
Oh, boy.
But you are into football. You played football.
Wait. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The next time I tailgate when the NFL season comes around, will you at least come, bring Nancy, and see if you like it?
I'll tell you what. We'll go to a Jet game at Life Stadium. That's your team. You'll wear the Joe Namath throwback number 12 jersey from Beavers Fall, Pennsylvania. I'll wear the Curtis Martin throwback jersey 28 from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How about that? I'll wear the black jersey, you wear the white jersey.
Oh, boy. What's on your mind today, Mr. Sliwa?
Well, I got to find out. I know you're going to be watching the Super Bowl. I know you're the dip guy. You know, dip. When you run out of chips, let me tell you about Dominic. He dips with his fingers. I mean, this guy ain't going to let no dip remain in that bowl, that's for sure. Nachos,
chicken wings.
Chicken wings. Well, I don't know, man. Like Governor Hochul is saying, the chickens may have bird flu.
Oh, yeah.
You may have to be living without, and you know what it's like when a brother don't have his chicken.
Right.
Oh,
right.
My God. How are you going to survive if all of a sudden all the chickens are quarantined because of bird flu, and you can't even go to Popeyes or Kentucky Fried Chicken and get that original KFC?
But I don't want to talk about KFC because then people will start. I'll get 20 emails about my health. But I haven't had KFC in a while, man. Are you a KFC guy? I'm a Popeye guy.
No, Popeye, because I like the red beans. The red beans and rice. It's like, Cajun good. Red beans and rice, man. It's so good. And you know where I had that first? Right there, Canal of Bourbon in New Orleans.
Wow.
That's where Popeyes came about, Louisiana.
That's right.
Man, they love it. And those great corn muffins, man.
Well, can I be honest with you?
Of course you can be honest. What do you ask a question like that? Can you be honest?
Because the brothers, we're used to the cornbread. That we eat that. You guys, you taste it and you're like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. We're used to it every Sunday.
No, I know that, but now, who's your rooting interest for? I mean, are you a Swiftie? Are you like Taylor Swift?
I like Taylor Swift, but I like Beyonce more.
Whatever happened to all those Swifties? Weren't they supposed to turn the election for first Biden and then have
Yeah, well, good luck with that. That's a good point, Curtis. But the Eagles, Saquon is going to New York Giants. He's playing out there for revenge against the Giants.
Let me tell you something. I hate both of them equally. I'm like Switzerland. I hate the Taylor Swift-led Kansas City Chiefs. She's destroyed football. You don't watch smash mouth American football. I love smash mouth American football. Not that fake, phony, fraudulent football they spell with a U. Kickball, goal. And then Taylor Swift and the Swifties. And then the Eagles. What a bunch of barbarian, degenerate knuckle draggers. Saquon or not, I could never support the Eagles as a Giant fan. And I've had it with Taylor Swift and the Swifties, so I'm like Switzerland. I'm neutral. I hate both these teams.
Now, I know you're going to be working all weekend, but so do you have a team you're going to root for?
Yeah, it's called Team Sleeper because me and Nancy are on when the Super Bowl are on, and watch, we'll have an audience. Not everybody is into the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, there you go, Mr. Sleeper. Have a great weekend, man.
Rerouting. You save 2 minutes via Clinton Avenue, Manhattan Bridge, Lower Roadway, Brooklyn, and avoid traffic building up on your route. In 700 feet, use the right lane to turn right on Clinton Avenue.
Sacrifices for us. Help Tunnel to Towers to help lift these heroes and their families. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
Turn right on Clinton Avenue.
Is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
It's 39 degrees and partly sunny on this Friday, February 7th. Good afternoon. President Trump is meeting with Japan's Prime Minister today.
No coffee,
coming
no
up, but first, a check on Wall Street with James Flippin.
Well, Lisa, U.S. stocks finished lower today. Wall Street watchers concerns tied to inflation and tariffs led to today's broad sell-off. President Trump saying he's planning reciprocal tariffs on trading partners. While visiting with Japan's Prime Minister, Trump said reciprocal trade will be announced next week, adding this means the U.S. would be treated evenly with other countries. But the concept of a protracted trade war has made investors skittish, and this came after the market was already on edge amid today's jobs report and data concerning inflation. Get to that in a second. The 10-year Treasury yield spiked above 5% at one point. In economic data, consumer sentiment fell in February and came in below economists' expectations. Respondents anticipate the
In half a mile, use the right lane to turn right on Flatbush Avenue. Speed camera ahead. Speed camera ahead.
At least 38 states and said he remains committed to creating peace in the Indo-Pacific, including the Korean Peninsula, and working with Japan to do so. The president said the U.S. has a great relationship with Japan, but also said tariffs against the country are an option. Trump said he discussed the two countries' vital economic ties with Toshiba. Crews have lifted the remains of the Army helicopter that collided with a passenger plane last week in the Potomac River. Changes are being made at Reagan National Airport as the probe continues. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy is open to help from Elon Musk, as Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has suggested.
Elon Musk or anyone else can provide great ideas. I mean, they are certainly on the cutting edge of technologies, and I think that's great.
The automatic dependent surveillance broadcast, which includes a display showing where other aircraft are in the vicinity, was apparently turned off at the time of the crash. The Justice Department is agreeing to not publicly release a list of FBI agents who investigated January 6th cases for now. Lawyers representing a group of FBI employees who sued the DOJ over the list reached the agreement today. The DOJ would need to provide 2 business days' notice if it reverses course and decides to release the list. New Jersey's Attorney General Matt Blackman is in Boston today for a key hearing over President Trump's executive order to terminate birthright citizenship.
Every day we fight for the residents of our state, and that's what I'm doing today in Boston, fighting to make sure that the rule of law prevails, that birthright citizenship, which has been in the Constitution for 157 years, cannot be stripped out.
The case is led by New Jersey, Massachusetts, and California on behalf of a coalition of states in trying to get a preliminary injunction banning the order from taking effect. Amandeep Singh has been sentenced to 8 to 25 years in prison for the May 3rd, 2023 wrong-way crash that killed 2 Roslyn, Long Island teen tennis players when he plowed into their car. Police say he was drunk on alcohol and high on cocaine. Drew Hassenbein and Ethan Falkowitz, both 14 years old, were killed instantly. Live bird markets in New York City and the surrounding suburbs are temporarily shutting down following more cases of the bird flu. Noam Layden has more.
Governor Hochul's order means that bird markets in the city, Long Island, Westchester, need to stop taking in new poultry, sell down current stock, close for 5 days, and then undergo cleaning and disinfection.
Each must then be inspected by our state egg markets before they can reopen. These are just simply measured, common sense steps that will curb the spread of bird flu and ultimately to keep New Yorkers safe.
The governor's order comes after 7 cases of the bird flu in the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens were detected just within the last week. Noam Layden, ABC News.
The Westminster Dog Show is returning to Manhattan. The 149th annual dog show takes place at Madison Square Garden from February 8th through the 11th, although some events will be held at the Javits Center. The Best in Show, however, will be awarded at MSG. The first dog show was in 1877 at Gilmore's Garden, which was officially renamed Madison Square Garden in 1879. In sports tonight, the Nets take on the Miami Heat and the Rangers skate against the Penguins. The Islanders are facing the Winnipeg Jets. Your forecast tonight looks clear to partly cloudy with a low of 26 degrees. The outlook for tomorrow, mostly cloudy skies to start the day with a high of 37, and then a wintry mix moves in Saturday night. We could see 3 to 6 inches of snow in our area. Sunday, leftover morning flurries and then partly cloudy skies with a high of 42 degrees. We have 39 degrees. It is partly to mostly sunny outside of our Midtown studios right now. I'm Lisa Ritchie. Remember, the news never stops at WABCRadio.com.
Attention ditto heads. Attention Bo Scouts.
Goes by the stadium most nerdly.
It's time for the soul of excellence.
He is a radio host here in New York.
The Rush Hour is on the air.
Rush.
Now here's James Golden.
Welcome, my friends, to the Friday edition of Bo Scouts Rush Hour. I am James Golden. The telephone number to reach us if you want to be part of the program is 800-848. 9222-800-848-9222. Moments before the program began, broadcast engineer Sir Carlos, otherwise known as Lady Carla, otherwise known as the Duke of Earl, man of many aliases, said to me, "This is Super Bowl weekend," like I didn't know. Thank goodness he did it, because I didn't know. And didn't care. So I quickly, Little League product thing to share, who was in the Super Bowl last year? To which Carlos said,
Chiefs and 49ers.
And I said, and who was in it the year before?
Chiefs and Eagles again.
So, and this year, who's in it? It's
Chiefs and Eagles again.
And hence I said, isn't this getting a little boring to you people? I guess I don't know. I did not know that the star quarterback of the people with the Swifties, yes.
Speed camera ahead.
Government workers were speaking to say DOJ is very quickly moving ahead with this work. That is NPR's Shannon Bond. Thank you so much, Shannon. Thanks, also. President Trump kicked off his second term with a dramatic crackdown on immigration, ramping up arrests, terminating temporary legal protections, and transporting migrants from the U.S. mainland to Guantanamo Bay. Immigrant advocates call those moves cruel and unnecessary, but many of Trump's supporters are applauding these early steps, as NPR's Joel Rose reports.
Dozens of demonstrators gathered recently in a park across the street from the White House. From a distance, they looked like protesters. But up close, you could hear them chanting, "Freedom for Cuba." These were Cuban Americans who had come to show support for the president and push him to be even tougher on Cuba's communist government. Several of the demonstrators say they support President Trump's immigration crackdown, too.
We're thankful that Donald Trump is taking action against illegal immigration.
Alexis Blanco Diaz was one of those demonstrators, wearing a bright red MAGA baseball hat. But there is one big way that Blanco Diaz differs from your average Trump supporter. He is himself a recent immigrant to the U.S. who fled Cuba in 2022 and is currently seeking asylum here. Blanco Diaz turned himself in after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally.
When I was suspecting that people would ask me what you're doing here, why are you coming to this country. I came in with my papers, with all of the evidence I have of being oppressed in Cuba, but nobody asked me anything. And at that moment, I thought, this is not right.
If Blanco Diaz showed up at the border today under President Trump, he would likely be turned away. The White House has moved quickly to end several Biden-era asylum policies, closing off the CBP-1 act that allowed migrants to enter legally to ask for asylum, as well as a special humanitarian program for migrants from Cuba and other countries. Blanco Diaz says he is glad to see those Biden programs end. So is Kiel Cabrera, grew up in Miami, but still has family back in Cuba.
I think that it is a temporary necessity in order to organize the unfortunate chaos of allowing 3, 4, 5 million migrants into this country.
There were a record number of migrant apprehensions at the border during the Biden administration, though the numbers dropped significantly last year. Still, some Trump supporters are eager for a tougher approach. Steve Dechter was visiting Washington from Florida with his family.
It's an unfortunate, sad situation, but, there's a lot of things going on here in America that need to be taken care of and cleaned, and I'm happy that someone is doing it.
Near the Washington Monument, Beatrice Richards was selling Trump merchandise laid out on a couple of tables on the sidewalk. Richards says she's glad to see the president keeping migrants out.
That's very good because those are bad people coming to harm people, good people here in America.
There's no evidence of a widespread migrant crime wave, although a few grisly cases have drawn a lot of attention. And the Trump administration has tried to play up that narrative with a series of high-profile arrests in major cities. And so far, a lot of his supporters are on board. Enoch Rich is a pastor from Central City, Kentucky.
My goodness, they're going 1,000 miles an hour, but it's everything that he said he wanted to do thus far.
Pastor Rich was wearing a knit Trump hat as he visited the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. While he supports the administration's crackdown, Rich says it has been alarming for congregants in his own church who immigrated from Mexico.
Those that are in the congregation are afraid.
Rich says he's tried to comfort them by saying they're not likely to be targets.
I feel like that things are not going to go down that way. I do believe, from what I've seen about Trump, that as tough as he is, that he does have a soft heart.
Immigration policy is a balance that can tip easily in either direction, Rich says. And he prays President Trump won't go too far. Joel Rhodes, NPR News, Washington.
When Donald Trump was elected in November, American importers suddenly began stockpiling their favorite Italian wines in anticipation of the president's tariffs on European goods. Prosecco, as NPR's Ruth Sherlock reports, was at the very top of that list. She brings us this report from Rome. Prosecco is the most popular Italian wine in the United States. Fun, bubbly, light, it's used in toasts and celebrations and in cocktails. Something Americans are not willing to give up. U.S. imports of Prosecco skyrocketed by 41% in November after Donald Trump was elected to the power of Executive. He's the Secretary General of the Union of Italian Wines Trade Association. It's a response from Canada and China. He then paused some of those tariffs, but the threat to the EU remains.
It will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us.
Trump complained to reporters before boarding Air Force One recently of a trade deficit with the EU.
They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing, and we take everything from them.
The tariffs could push up the cost of European wine for American consumers, and it could be devastating for the Italian wine industry that sends about a quarter of its exports to the US market. Italian wine growers are not the only ones concerned about the possible new tariff regime. The head of Italy's fashion chamber has appealed to the Italian government to do what it can to protect the country's second largest industry. Castelletti from the Union of Italian Wine says there are things the Italian government could do.
Presidente del Consiglio ha sicuramente dei rapporti privilegiati.
He asks Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to lever the privileged relationship she's cultivated with Trump to help the European Union to try to stop or limit the tariffs. Otherwise, he says, this trade war will hurt everybody. Ruth Sherlock, NPR News, Rome.
WNYC. There's more All Things Considered coming your way. We'll hear from a pastor in Washington, D.C. after his church was awarded the trademark of the far-right extremist group, the Proud Boys. Well, that conversation coming up.
Support for WNYC comes from National Geographic documentary films presenting Sugarcane. A groundbreaking investigation exposes the cover-up of cultural genocide and illuminates the enduring love of an indigenous community. Awards eligible. Sugarcane, now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
On the next Radio Lab.
La bula, bala, bula. Bule, 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 bule.
Internet posts a beautiful double rainbow. Oh my God. And hideous, obscene, nasty Instagram post. Doxing, indecent, revenge, place that it should not, place that it is today.
That's on the next Radio Lab. Tomorrow at noon on WNYC.
And be sure to join us tomorrow for Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Comedian Vanessa Bayer talks about SNL, the Disney sequel Freakier Friday, and then plays Not My Job. Tune in for Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. That's tomorrow morning. It's at 11 o'clock on WNYC. Speaking of tomorrow, we should probably talk about it a little bit because we have another winter storm on the way. That snow tomorrow is probably today. There's a chance of snow in the afternoon, but it's really going to kick it a high gear once the sun goes down. We could see some significant totals in some areas. The lower Hudson Valley, parts of New Jersey, City, March 2. Right now, New York City, maybe 3 to 5 inches when it's all said and done. We'll keep you posted on those totals as we get. Support for NPR comes from member stations and from Amazon Business, committed to being a digital purchasing solution for businesses, so that growing the business is the main focus and not admin and paperwork. Learn about smart business buying at AmazonBusiness.com. And Indeed, designed to be an end-to-end hiring solution for businesses of all sizes to attract, interview, and hire candidates, all from one platform. Learn more at Indeed.com/NPR.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Elsa Chang. And I'm Lana Summers. It sounds improbable that after a court ruling this week, the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church here in Washington owns the Proud Boys trademark. Yes, just to be clear, you did hear that correctly. The far-right extremist group can no longer sell hats, jackets, or anything else emblazoned with their name or logo without the church's permission. And the church can also move to seize the profits from anything they do sell under that trademark. Reverend Bill Lamar IV leads the Metropolitan AME Church, and he joins us now in studio. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Anna.
Reverend, I'd like to just start, if I could, by asking you a little bit about how we got here. Now, for people who may not remember, back in 2020, Proud Boys members jumped a fence onto your church's property. They destroyed a Black Lives Matter banner, and a judge ordered them in 2023 to pay the church $2.8 million. They failed to do so, and so the court granted your church this trademark instead. Just start by telling us if you know where that idea came from.
So actually, well, it is confusing. There were actually 2 lawsuits. The first suit is the suit that ended with Judge Kravitz of the D.C. Superior Court granting us nearly $3 million in damages, and that is growing because interest is applied to the decision. Because they defied the order of Judge Kravitz, we appeared again with a second lawsuit. We determined that the value they had was in their trademark, which they used the license to sell merchandise, to recruit for their white supremacist and fascist activities, and we went after that trademark to be made whole. They defied the court, and we defied them in that we will live joyfully, we will do what we have always done without fear, even in the face of what they did to us.
There is a statement on the homepage of your church's website that I read earlier today, and part of it reads, for the first time in our nation's history, a black institution owns property of a white supremacist group. And as I read it, it just carries a whole lot of weight. What does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, it means that my wife is a good writer. And the second thing it means is,
in half a mile,
I think
use the right 2 lanes to stay to the right 2 Medford Street, 6th Avenue.
But geopolitically, people who believe that humans should be free and flourish and exist face together. And our victory magnifies the fact that we need not shrink in this moment politically. I think that what it means is we will not always get what we want. We will not always win, but where there are victories, other victories are seated. And there is a passage of scripture where Joseph is mistreated by his brothers. And ultimately, many people misinterpret this, and I hate the way many people interpret it. But the language is, what was meant for evil, the divine repurposes for good. So I want to communicate that evil is afoot good is not defeated, nor is good dead if we will continue to lift our eyes toward what's possible together.
So your church now owns the Proud Boys trademark. I do have to ask you, is there anything about this outcome that feels scary? I'll just note that members of the Proud Boys have been convicted of numerous crimes in recent years.
Speed camera ahead.
Violent crimes in some cases, in addition to vandalizing your church.
Well, I think it's clear that this is a decision that the church took, and we're clear that it was not without risk. We're clear that they are violent. We're clear that they exist to stoke violence. And we understood that Fannie Lou Hamer was taking risks in Sunflower County, Mississippi. We understand that Ida B. Wells Barnett was taking risks when she was writing about the truth of lynching. We understand that our ancestors come from a long line of those who took risks for themselves and for human flourishing, and we cannot shrink in this moment. I keep remembering the poetry of Lucille Clifton, who says, "Come celebrate with me, that every day something has tried to kill me, and it has failed. This has failed, and it will fail."
I'll note that President Trump has pardoned, in some cases commuted in others, sentences for members of the group, the Proud Boys, for their involvement in the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol just highlighted here. Does that give you any pause, any concern? I understand wanting to be bold in the face to all the inspiration you just talked about, but do you worry, even a bit?
Oh, well, you have to. I mean, I think that to consider what is possible is to be realistic. But there is something in us that causes us to rise above. The kitchen table moment of Martin Luther King comes back when he is disturbed and being threatened and gets a nasty call from vitriolic racists. And he hears the voice of God saying to fight on. He hears the voice of God telling him that he was called for this purpose, and we have been called for this purpose. And it's really sad. The pardon is of a piece with the lost cause mythology. America has a way of punishing the poor, the black, the gay, the dispossessed, but letting these type of extremists, these type of violent insurrectionists, the same way that they found a way to deify the lost cause of Confederate mythology, they're trying to do that now. But
Then use either lane to turn right on 6th
and the light
Avenue.
will continue to shine.
The former leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, was part of the group that vandalized your church. And on social media, he reacted to this judgment. He claims that he was denied due process, but he also calls things that we see and hear on social media is just confined to that space. But in the current climate, given everything we've seen, given everything that people are experiencing right now, are you concerned with this decision to bring your ministry unwanted attention?
It is possible, and we are clear that the law is on our side. What we are doing is not outside of the law. What they did was outside of the law. And this type of gaslighting from criminals is problematic. We have to talk about it because they're trying to distract us from the work that we are to do. And much of what I'm hearing from that side, in the words of my father's late sister, who was an English teacher, Juanita Dolores Lamar, that certain kinds of ignorance deserve no response.
Do you have any sense of what your church plans to do with the money?
When we get it, we seek to repurpose it not only to further our mission, we also want to use money, should we get it, to lift up other organizations. This will be a reverse capitalism kind of way of doing this. We're not just going to accumulate, but we're going to share with others who are doing this work around the nation, and we've been in touch with some of them. So we don't want this victory to be a moment or a one-off. We want to seed an energy and inspiration that will help us to move forward in days to come, because days to come will become more difficult.
Your church is a familiar sight for so many of us who live in and around Washington. It is historic, but for many people who are perhaps hearing our conversation, this story is the first time they will have ever heard of your church. I wonder, what should they know about it? What would you like people to know and understand about your ministry?
That's a wonderful question. Our ministry is a part of the Black prophetic tradition. And the Black prophetic tradition believes that we are all siblings. And wherever there is exploitation, of oppression, and extraction, our tradition has spoken into that and sought to build a space where we can live together. We have never excluded anyone. We got the National Cathedral down the street, but at a point, my grandparents were not welcome. So we do not exclude, we love all, and we seek to build the kind of world where we can live and flourish together.
That was Reverend Bill Lamar. He
January, the Trump administration released significant amounts of water from 2 dams in California's Central Valley, with Trump claiming the action would have prevented the Los Angeles fires. We're going to break that down in just a few minutes here on All Things Considered. News headlines are coming up next. 34 degrees at the moment. It's sunny out. We're going to see temperatures getting to the low 20s overnight, and then tomorrow snow is coming, probably starting in the afternoon into the evening. It's WNYC. It's a Friday afternoon, just a moment before 4:30.
On last week's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Joyelle Nicole Johnson reacted to Spirit Airlines banning passengers who look too sexy.
That's why all Black Spirit is.
Exactly, you know? I'm Tom Papa, sitting in for Peter Stagel. We'll raise your spirits with Saturday Night Live veteran Vanessa Bayer on this week's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me from NPR. Tomorrow morning at 11 on 93.9 FM and AM 820 WNYC.
Leadership funding for WNYC's local and digital news initiatives is provided by the Jerome L. Green Foundation, a proud supporter of New York City's major cultural institutions.
If you believe democracy requires a free press, your station is WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Turn left on West 19th Street.
Live from NPR News in Culver City, California, I'm Dwayne Brown. President Trump welcomed Japan's prime minister to the White House today, where he said the two countries will work to cut Washington's trade deficit with Tokyo amid escalating tensions with China.
On 7th Avenue.
Chronic trade deficits not only undermine our economy, they really do, and we're going to get rid of the trade. We have a trade deficit with Japan of over $100 billion, but we're going to work that out, and I think very quickly, frankly, we can do it just on oil and gas.
Trump said a proposal by Japan's largest steelmaker to buy U.S. steel, which was rejected by President Biden last year on national security grounds, would be taken up next week. 3 times referring to Nippon Steel as Nissan, the car company. Trump said they are now looking at an investment, not a purchase of U.S. steel. The administration is renewing calls for more funding from Congress this week, urging more money for detaining and deporting people suspected of being in the country without authorization. From Washington, NPR's Amina Bastillo reports.
Since the start of the Trump administration, officials say they have arrested over 8,000 people, but not all have been held in detention. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters at the White House this week that over 400 people that were arrested by federal immigration officials have already been released.
Some of the factors include a lack of significant likelihood of removal in the foreseeable future, lack of detention availability, which is something this president and this administration has been incredibly vocal about.
She added that some had serious medical conditions and none have had final deportation orders. The lead agency in charge of stopping illegal immigration and customs enforcement has long warned that it may not have enough physical space to handle Trump's efforts to ramp up enforcement. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
Stocks finished lower across the board on Wall Street. This is NPR.
And it's on WNYC in New York. I'm Sean Carlson, 34 degrees at 4:32. Queens City Councilmember Joanne Ariola will officially take over as Republican minority leader for the city's legislative branch. She replaces Staten Island's Joe Borelli, who left office for the private sector.
Joe Borelli, what's up?
Ariola's election today
How you
comes after a
doing?
2-week feud with the council's Republican conference, with an attorney for the council invalidating a leadership vote last week because not enough members were present. Ariola says she is ready to move forward.
I'm a person that has a reputation of being a moderate and being reasonable when it comes towards legislation.
Ariola represents parts of Queens and the Rockaway Peninsula. State Health Commissioner James McDonald says live poultry markets in and around New York City need to shut down for a week. 7 birds were found to be infected in the last week. So far, the virus has not been detected in people here.
The New York State Department of Health is using all the tools at its disposal to monitor for influenza in human beings. We're prepared for widespread testing should the need arise.
Officials are also reaching out to poultry industry workers. Well, the National Weather Service says the metro area could see upwards of 7 inches of snow. The weather agency says 3 to 5 inches of snow likely in New York City tomorrow night into Sunday morning. The city's acting Department of Sanitation Commissioner Mario Bruno says the bulk of their work starts around midnight. We're going to do our pre-treatment on
a lot of highway ramps, and off ramps, some of the elevated roadways on the highways, protected bike lanes. The weather service says up to 7 inches of snow is possible. That starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow night and lasts until 10 on Sunday morning. The weather agency says slush-covered roads can make for hazardous travel conditions. In the 5 boroughs, alternate site parking is suspended tomorrow, but you still gotta feed those meters. We have some scattered delays on the subway at the moment. Be sure to check before you head out for this evening. Also, we have scattered cancellations on MJ Transit's Northeast Corridor line. A look at our weather at the moment, 34 degrees, still sunny outside, but not for long. We're going to see temperatures tonight fall into the mid-20s. Again, that winter weather advisory starts tomorrow evening and will last until Sunday morning. For tomorrow, before the snow, it should be partly sunny. We'll see temperatures in the mid-30s. You're listening to WNYC. It's 4:35.
Support for NPR comes from WNYC members and from Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
One tomato coming up.
Foundation,
Next
inspired by the principle that helping someone else less fortunate is a path to a happier, healthier, and more
Sweet
meaningful
Home,
life.
Alabama.
Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Elsa Chang.
There you go.
In California, and I'm Juana Summers in Washington.
Thank you for
In the wake of
sticking
the
around. See you
fires,
tomorrow.
President
Peace
Trump
and love.
blamed
Peace and
California
love.
officials for not sending enough water
Peace
to
and
help
love.
with
See you
firefighting
tomorrow.
efforts. Water at
Thank you for sticking around. I'm going to go home. Have a soup. Chicken soup.
to battle the deadly blazes, but last week Trump directed big